Is that searchable in this game? Huntington's is a neurodegenerative disease that most recognizably causes memory issues and uncontrollable movements of the limbs. After symptom onset, somewhere between age 30 and 50, those affected by Huntington's typically live another 15 to 18 years as their symptoms worsen. There is no cure. Oh, it's one of the really dark ones, damn. Yeah, so it's possible she had symptoms of Huntington's and tried to have somebody else take her child because there's no cure and she has a time limit now and she's not going to be able to take care of herself or the child in a time span that's shorter than most people's childhoods. Huntington's is passed genetically from parent to child. The gene that causes Huntington's works in such a way that if the parent has the disease, there's a 50-50 chance that their child will get it. Huntington's cannot be passed on recessively, meaning it cannot skip a generation. Oh. Okay. In other words, if someone has a mother or father with Huntington's, but they themselves did not receive it from their parent, their children and their grandchildren and so on will never have it. Well, that's nice, at least. Coin flip is fucking terrifying, but at least it's not like a terrifying looming threat in your entire extended family. Until the early 1990s, it was impossible to test for Huntington's, and instead symptoms would usually appear later in life. This would often be after the person was affected already had children. It would then be impossible to know if their children had it, as it was a 50-50 chance. Jeez. In 1993, due to determining which gene causes Huntington's, it did become possible to test children for it and know if the disease was passed on or not. For a variety of complex reasons, however, children are considered unable to consent to such a test and are therefore very rarely tested until they're showing early symptoms. That's rough. That's a terrifying test to get, but I also feel like if it runs in your family, you probably would need to get that test before you have your own kids, because you'd want to know whether or not you're taking that risk. But yeah, testing as a kid is inappropriate. Just getting your genes sequenced as a kid is just like a weird concept. Even though in this case, there's a reason to be concerned about it. Okay. So he's probably getting up in the years because his mom died in the 60s. God, these guys are old, right? Photos are all so old, but she's dead. And these are her kids that are also themselves pretty old. Not old, but like, isn't the timeline that he had to be born in 1958? So yeah, he was born in 1957, seemingly. Pregnancies were announced in 1957 and 1958 at least, so they could have been born in 1957 and 1958, or they could have been born in 1958 and 1959. Either way, 1957, if we take that as an assumption point, that would make him 42? Not massively up there. I'm fucking getting there. Not that soon. It's like 6 years older than me. But yeah. There certainly aren't the little kids we see here. That puts him in the age for when symptoms spike up. Ronald is within the age range for discovering Huntington's, which may have made him realize for the first time he may not be a Roottrie. Me concentrating to count the 2 O's, 2 T's, and 2 E's to make sure I spell the fucking name right. What an annoying name. I feel like it's an intentionally annoying name for a game where you're going to type it a lot. They're like, haha, let's make a bunch of double syllables, double letters to be silly about it. This is a huge tangent that's not that substantiated, but it's a series of things where I'm like, if you want to have a tragic and interesting story, these things lining up definitely line up. But so far, we still don't have evidence of it. include the coin flip bit. Does he have kids? He has kids. Oof. That. If he has it, that's a rough coin flip for these two. Okay. Did I find it? Huntington's disease is a smoking gun. See how this kind of gives it away? I feel like this is a potentially a weakness of the formatting of the game, is that, or in this case, the formatting of just this part of the game, is that like, I'm trying to track down these mysteries, and yes, having the smoking guns menu makes it reasonable to even do this, because otherwise how do you even know when you have the information? But it's really specific to be like, oh yeah, for some reason Leslie Florence and Huntington's disease are related to the situation with the twins, or they are these two brothers. I wonder why. I think one of them might be related to Leslie and might have Huntington's disease. It's not exactly a flaw with the game, but it is it does mean that I'm able to deduce this mystery partly on what feel like unfair details, like details I shouldn't, that wouldn't reasonably have access to otherwise. Did I already look through this whole thing? Oh yeah, the whole bit about being too personally. Yeah. Want to remove Robbie Roottree and the Roottree Rift. That's all fairly important. Are there any more names? I don't remember who your spouse is. With an E. Comedian Penelope Tessa Green was part of a recent fundraiser at a Reno comedy club, The Laugh Lounge, about a month ago. The fundraiser was called The Best Medicine, was to find a cure for Huntington's disease. Okay. Gotcha. This is getting kind of definitive, isn't it? Suspicious. According to the website, she released a statement. Up until recently, I didn't know anything about Huntington's disease. Uh-huh. In the last few months, I've gone from knowing nothing about it to learning more than any one person should ever have to. Until less than a decade ago, it was impossible to predict if anyone susceptible to Huntington's had the disease, but due to advances in medicine, tests have been developed. Hopefully this increased awareness is the first step to finding a cure. Please join me for a night of comedy and a good cause. Good for her. But also, it's totally because of her family, right? Okay, so she's involved in Huntington's disease charities because her own husband has it, right? Yeah, Penelope Tessa Green is right there. Oh, it's updated. What was the old article? Here I was like, oh, and I must have read this article last time, and I just glazed right over Huntington's disease because it wasn't relevant back then in the base game. But no, this is the base game article. There's no mention of it here. She already has a history of doing fundraisers via comedy, but nothing about Huntington's disease. So they just found out, which lines up with the idea that it's the health crisis that made him drop out. So it might not have been blackmail from Clark. It might specifically be that Ronald Roottree had to drop out of being president because he's now got a completely different focus on life because he's got Huntington's disease and he has to worry about his children having Huntington's disease. And very specifically, his mom survived until this year, where she died of pneumonia at the age of like 70 something, I think, or 8. I think that's what the age was. So she does not have Huntington's disease. So she can't be her mom, his mom. So it almost certainly is Leslie, although that's much more of a guess Not that much more of a guess. They do have Huntington's disease. I think I solved it. I would like to find the rest of the articles though. Like there's 2 more missing ones. There's a good chance that they're just like updated articles from last time. It's hard to say. Updated. She was a TV star on Brother Trouble. That's the show I was trying to name earlier, which ironically was involved in them brothers having some troubles. Tommy Mark Sheridan and Dustin Christopher Baker. Next door neighbor Roxy. Instant stardom for Christopher Baker, Dustin Christopher Baker, and Mark Sheridan. Dustin Christopher Baker is often abbreviated to DCB by his teenage fans. Since leaving Brother Trouble, he has appeared in a few straight-to-VHS movies that adapt classic literature to a family audience with minor success, the most popular of which was Jane Eyre. That's not how you spell that. Oh no, that's how they modernized it. Which reimagined the Charlotte Bronte novel as a high school romance with a focus on skateboarding. Gonna get some. She's gonna catch some Jane Eyre. Whoa! So fucking stupid. Are you in Teen Blast? DCB was TMS's co-star in Brother Trouble. Their mother was played by Penelope Tessa Green. During Dustin Christopher Baker was in fact in quite a few Teen Blast gossip columns, but not really the Rootrees at all. Yeah, we heard about TMS because that was the spouse of one of the Rootrees that died at the very beginning. This is the updated version. It's updated. Okay. They updated the article on Tommy Mark Sheridan. One's also updated. TMS has been in the news for his addiction both before and after the death of his wife, Raina. 2 months ago, he very publicly went to rehab. Since then, however, he has been seen in public a few times and appears to be doing better. He hasn't been in any movies in the last 8 months and has rarely appeared anywhere of note. Teen Blast did a very short piece about the Brother Trouble star TMS' recent stint in rehab and did their best to stay relatively light in tone for their audience of teens. TMS has gone through his fair share of hardships in the past year and still reeling from the death of the Roottrees Sisters, and he was closer to them than any of us. After his battle with addiction over the past few years led to a scary near-death experience, he vowed to make a change. He told us he's focusing on himself, his family, and his friends. Last year I lost my wife, and only a few months ago I found out someone close to me has a pretty serious disease. Okay. Well, he asked me not to talk about it, but over the next 5 or 10 years, it will likely get worse. All of the darkness has really put my own life into perspective. I almost threw it away. It turns out the most important thing I could do was stop trying to fix my problems by pretending they didn't exist. I urge your readers to make sure they're taking care of themselves as well. If you need help, seek it out. Does any of that count as... None of it really counts. What am I missing? I think I have it, but I just don't know what I'm missing right now. It's driving me a little crazy. Or do I have to update it by coming in and out? No. Yeah, no mention of this celebrity I was just looking into. But it is a smoking gun, isn't it? If we're talking about identifying that they have Huntington's disease. I was trying to remember if he was like... He was Tessa Green... Penelope Tessa Green's son or something, but I don't think that's the case. I don't know, I'm going way too far. I went down to the left out of reflex to find the daughters, because that's where it usually was, but the whole second tree messes with that a little bit. Not much more about Thomas Sheridan. It is weird that he's like a famous celebrity that in the gossip magazines, but we don't have a picture of him out of all the people we have pictures of. But I guess just because the picture wouldn't really be evidence. But it is weird that specifically, of all the things you would do in this game, it is interesting that like, he is espoused with the one Roottree sister out of these 3 that does have a bonus picture, but still isn't one with him. You think they would just do that? It doesn't matter. Might be able to do Starlit, or is that defunct? It's defunct. But yeah, he's not in it because it ended at some point. Okay. Yeah, I've already looked at this article. Sincerely, I have no idea how to find more. I might have to just give up. And just hope that it's not like a reverse smoking gun that completely fucks all the stuff that I thought I found. We have this stuff about Leslie Florence, the Huntingtons. It seems like proof. I think I'm just gonna have to go with it, man. I don't know what else to look for. Specifically, review my notes so I don't mess up the names and have a hilarious ending where I mix these things up. Right, it's the one that's married to Tessa Green, so it's not really that hard. I'm just like, I was really worried that I might just somehow overlook these names in a way similar to how frustrating it was with how similar the names were in this family and stuff. Also the thing with siblings with similar names where they split it up across different countries and so on. Okay, so you are not a Roottree because you have Huntington's disease and your mom didn't. And I assume Walter didn't. That is noteworthy. Shit. Before I continue. Oh, that would suck. How'd you die? Have you died? Well, Wild Bill Williams, an actor known for his role in Fortune Favors the Grave, did not make an appearance at Gwen Rootree's funeral. Because of his... I haven't looked at this article yet? Wild. Because of his absence, there were rumors online he must have already died. Oh, my stupid slideshow is running on the other screen. Sorry if the bottom of the screen's been distracting. This game has like a weird aspect ratio, very slightly, so the slideshow I have running in OBS that runs when no game is on the screen is visible behind it. It's weird. That doesn't normally happen to any other game. I hope. Anyway, because of his absence, there were rumors online he must have already died, but according to a reporter that tracked him down, he's in his 70s, still lives in Paris, and is still in perfectly fine health. He even went on record saying, "I think it was Mark Twain who said the rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated." That seems appropriate today. The few years I spent with Gwen were just one stop along the very long and complicated journeys that have been in my life and career. The last time we spoke was when I signed the divorce papers. She asked me to never contact her or the kids again. I've always respected those wishes. They never reached out to me either, even as adults, so I have to assume that they have some idea why she hated me so much and the sacrifices she made on my behalf. I wish them well and I'm sorry for their loss, but we've all been strangers for 40 years, so I can confidently say that they wouldn't have wanted me to be there. In fact, I'm confident my presence would have ruined it. That confuses me. It doesn't mess up anything about my current theories, but it fucks with my background understanding of how their family worked. Where is it? Because these are all only new, right? Or is this... Oh, archived evidence. Oh, that brings up the previous page of stuff. couldn't make the reunion. Wishing you well from Paris. I don't understand this one. Why were they in Paris? Does she just live in... I guess maybe she just lives in Paris still, or likes being in Paris. I guess I always interpreted this as they were visiting their dad in Paris. Like their divorced dad, because, you know, sometimes you just maintain relationships with your dad. But they haven't had contact for 40 years. So they just also either still live in Paris or visit Paris. The film industry is in Hollywood here. So I think they lived here when they were making the show? I don't know if their mom did or not. I don't know. I could be totally wrong about that. Where'd she die? That's worth wondering. This isn't about her death. Yeah. She was 67 and in Paris. I guess she just actually lives in Paris. Which, like, isn't weird, but you could see why I'd be a little thrown just because they're all, like, Hollywood starlet type people. So you expect them to be in Los Angeles. So when you hearing that they're in Paris made me think they were visiting their dad who left to Paris, seemingly. But I guess they're just in Paris. Or maybe the boys visited her in Paris because she's just lived in Paris this whole time. Because, yeah, her career ended at some point. Although that was ages ago. That photo was ages ago. I mean, like, she was much younger in that photo than now. But I guess older than there, right? Honestly, I don't know. It's just a different hair shape. Specifically, this is like Marilyn Monroe-esque starlet hair, and this is like my mom. So I just immediately assume older. Anyway, not a Roottree. Yes, a Roottree. She literally she had his bump. He was a bump in her belly. So that's how you can't be more blood relative than that. Okay, well now I'm shooketh. I'm done. -1. The fucking original one. And like, uh-oh. Maybe it's my tendency to be too certain of things. Maybe I've just kind of lost sight of the idea. I don't like the mechanic. I don't like that there's a third option. It bothers me. Cause like this is a game about proving things one way or the other. But like, to be clear, this entire time I've always been like, yeah, but like proof is almost never definitive. Like I'm like quote unquote proving stuff, but it's like circumstantial implication that's like pretty strong, but not literally proof. And then I just have to go with it and get it locked in and just be like, good enough, I guess. So what the fuck is how do you know when to give up? I was like, I'm gonna go forward and do the rest of them and try to figure out the evidence for when somebody is just in this third thing where you're like, maybe they're Roottree, I don't know. But I ended up giving every single person a yes or no. Except him, which is a bad sign. That's a very I guess we'll just reread the evidence. We have all the smoking guns and just see if my perspective has changed. 6 pieces. What's the relevant names? We're looking for Elias Roottree, Bess Williams, and Frank Williams. Guy. It's all about Guy, which is way later. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met, but who worked as one of Guy's secretaries. According to Elizabeth, the caterer from the local restaurant. That's the Antonelli stuff, right? This is all Guy. Where's Elias once had a secretary named Elizabeth. Where's the bit about Elias? This whole page is about Guy, right? Right. So the only piece of evidence about Elias is the Who's Beth. And we know that Beth likely was Bess, being mispronounced because apparently Elias's wife had a lisp like that. That's why we get to Bess Williams. I guess it's the only thing in all of 6 pieces. So that confirms that they were involved enough to piss off his wife. But are you his son or not? And this is about how Lauren Roottree was always forever faithful to her dead husband. According to her. The more I hear about this family, I'm like, I don't know if I can believe her. She's just saying this about herself. My parents are the perfect match in the worst way. My mother's cruelty is a perfect fit for my father's general spite. That's... how and there was infidelity in that family? That's crazy. Top status enables her incessant need to gloat and feel superior. Huh. Oh wait, no, we don't care about that. I keep mistaking her as being Elias's child. She's the granddaughter. Because yeah, every time I read this, I think this is about Elias, because I'm trying to find evidence about Elias and his wife. And then I reach the part in the next paragraph where they're making fun of that. Blood is thicker than syrup, he said. Which is literally not true. Blood is not thicker than syrup. But also, he specifically was the one sleeping around. Grandma Gwyneth's lisp. Please remember them. Elias, please remember them. Don't know what to do with that. There's not much to go off of. That's 2 of the smoking guns are just to establish Elias and Bess having known each other, which is not a lot to go on, or as his actual parentage. And he's dead. He died 3 years ago, so he cannot be tested for DNA. And he doesn't have any memory or notes or stuff about his mother and father, because he never met his father, and his mother's stuff about his mother was lost in the hurricane. Update on Bess Williams. Writer of Family Man. It makes even more sense that they named the library after her, because she and the original version of that library were both destroyed in the same hurricane. She died and it was destroyed. So they rebuilt it with a statue of her and named it after her, so it's a direct memorial for the same event. This is shit. This is nothing, really. Yeah. I think all the evidence is too old and there's not enough of it. There's like no data points. So I can't prove he's a blood relative or that he's not a Roottree. I think that's... This one is just specifically like so low on evidence that you can't prove it or disprove it. And I guess that's the thing, is that I had like reasons to disprove various people throughout this. But for Frank, we just kind of don't have anything. There's an obvious, provable connection between Elias and Bess, and then it just ends. Bess is dead. Frank is dead. His kids aren't gonna know. We can't DNA test them against Elias because Elias is dead. I guess you could DNA test Barbara, the most direct relative, against one of the yeah, I don't know. They mostly have talked about using DNA tests for guys' descendants. I don't know if Elias... Ooh, well, Elias has a living son. You could probably DNA test this. Because isn't Miracle still alive? Because Miracle... I think they said it was specifically Miracle Roottree, not Miracle Jr., that did the counter article against 5Ps originally. So Miracle is still alive. I think everyone else is probably dead. They certainly don't have any newer photos. I swear she looks like Charlize Theron. So I believe that Miracle... It's weird that I can't add a new photo for him, given that I have this. Locked in. Where is it locked in? It's not there. Oh, right. He has a new slot. That is weird, but oh, sure, whatever. Yeah, it is weird that they show up twice in the tree. So Miracle's still alive. So... I don't know how DNA tests work. In this case, they're going for Bonnie, the sibling. Like, it's not the same DNA, but it's like a different combination of their parents' DNA with an arbitrary amount of overlap and non-overlap. That's probably more... That's probably more in common than a parent has. But you might be able to figure out DNA to some extent by testing Miracle, since he's the closest living relative to Elias. I don't think he wants to be tested because he's an obstructionist dickhead. But yeah, he's half of Elias, and Barbara is half of Frank. So you got like that's a multiplicatively worse result of like a quarter of comparison-ish, or however DNA works. So it'd be really bad. Even the DNA test sounds much less effective here in the circumstances. But maybe they can do it. I don't know how good they are at that stuff. And you know, a certain level of overlap at all would be indicative within the, like, are you guys much more related than normal random humans are? Suspicious. But yeah, that's the best you could do, is check Miracle versus Barbara, and we can't rely on DNA evidence right now because it's corrupted by someone trying to specifically put their finger on the scale. So I think I just gotta do this. Don't know. Let's see. The last two are optional. You can summon Sam and Clark whenever you wish. Do I just believe? Do I just believe and I hope? Let's just press it. I've worked this hard, and like they're all... It says I'm ready, so that means they're all filled in. Let's find out if I fuck something up. It's rough that you get no confirmation, and you just have to lock in a huge number of things all at once. But first, here's the final optional entries you found. Daniel Newton. Jeez, these were a while ago. That's how long we've been stuck in this phase. I don't even remember a bunch of those. Family tree complete. Booyah.
Beatrice and Courtney May. Clark, can you swing another test against Bonnie's DNA?
Bonnie's still alive, at least.
This time I'll be sure to have them verify both samples in person.
1 week later. I really never got out, do I?
Using the family tree you filled out, as well as DNA tests, we were able to uncover the truth behind all the inconsistencies. Clark's handling the business, but I've come to thank you and fill you in on everything we've learned. Buckle up, because it's been one heck of a week. Actually, that's an understatement. It's not every week you discover your family company is being sabotaged by someone they trusted.
What?
But that's the kind of time we've been having. Like I said, buckle up. Maybe grab some popcorn. We'll start with Guy Hudson.
Can you, like, come in or something? Buckle up. Maybe grab some popcorn. This one's gonna take a while. Ma'am, you are still standing on my doorstep. It's so weird.
Guy had a frankly ridiculous number of potential children. What shocked me is how many graduated from potential to confirmed. We can even prove he was aware of them. The smoking gun was how he used company money to pay off a lot of women. He hid it with a method inspired by his idol, Elias. 5-piece flavors. The flavors he was paying to research were a ruse. He developed flavors based on the initials of the women he was paying, which was really stupid, considering one of their names started with X.
Uh-huh. Why would you leave a clue to your evil plan?
Let's start with Christine. Guy was paying her under the name Caviar, but there were some other clues. James was born 9 months after Zach's party. Christine was there with Guy, and when she got pregnant, she panicked. Steve stepped up. He even turned it into one of his recipe stories. Not all of Guy's affairs led to offspring. He may have slept with Robin Martin, but she didn't have children, so we'll never know. Also, not every child of Guy's affair partners were his. Robert Garland was born after his parents had already moved to Boston.
And Robert's like, dang, life-changing money, dodged it. Hope this doesn't lead to like a rift in the family.
Skipping Beatrice for now. Up next is Lang Xin-yu. When Guy showed up in China, she was into America. And Americans. Dare I say redheads, even? When she got pregnant, her father paid key genes to fake IVF. They claimed her sister was unable to conceive. But her sister and Jerry had their own son, Mark.
That's what threw me off so bad for so long, is that I genuinely thought that Mark was the baby that her sister held for her. Because the point is to have a daughter for you, and then have a kid for you, and then you raise the kid. So I thought that Mark was the test tube baby, and then Min was just a baby that she had later, because she provably can have kids. That's how she had Mark. I thought they were both her kids, but then only one of them was an option, which is weird. I think that's a mistake in the game's part a little bit. I do think that both... I think that's a problem. No. This is a limitation of the structure of the game, is that you do have to lock in the family members being real first, because that's how the game all worked. So she could only ever have one child under her, because that's just the truth of it. But in a different situation, I would have put both Mark and Min under her on the family tree, and then here is where in the final stage we would like end up disproving Mark's parentage somehow. Because the narrative, I feel like the narrative really points to the idea that they could both be her kid, the way that I said. Like the part where she carries a test tube baby to term could be true, and then Mark was born and then moved to America with his parents, and then she later had her own kid because she obviously can. That doesn't seem to contradict that much. Besides maybe a lack of evidence of 2 pregnancies even existing, obviously. So it feels like this should have been doable, but they can't let me put them both under her on the family tree and disprove it later in this stage, because that's just not how the tree works. The tree is based on concretely who is family and who isn't. So they had to always have only one slot, which gives away the fact that only one of them can be the kid, which is honestly half of the reason I was able to even land on the idea that Min was her kid. Because the point is to have only one slot, was because Mark and Min can't both be her kid, and Min is just accepted by all the documentation as being her kid. So then I guess Mark had to not be. But the narrative heavily implied or left the door open to the idea of Mark being her kid legitimately. But then with the format of the tree made that impossible. A tree that I shouldn't have, because in universe, there's no reason for me to have a concrete tree. I'm supposed to be figuring out the tree myself. But the entire tree is the entire shape of the tree is provided preemptively, because that's how the game works, not how family trees work or how this investigation would work. You would not magically know the shape of the tree at the beginning of the quest. That massively simplifies the game. And this one case in particular really gives you the answer preemptively in a way that's similar to my comment about the stuff with Huntington's disease, where I'm like, oh, interesting, Huntington's disease is a smoking gun, huh? Because you technically haven't connected the idea that he has Huntington's disease yet, but the fact that the game is like, wow, Huntington's disease is really important for some reason, that tells you he has Huntington's disease, because otherwise it wouldn't have come up. So this is a little goofy.
Sonia Alves was soon after. Nia was married at a very young age to a much older husband. She resented him. I don't blame her. They allegedly spent no time together in private. Guy was in Brazil during Christmas 1979. It's the only Christmas not in the records. Flavio was born 9 months later, and like the others, Guy started paying Sonia.
It's the only Christmas not in the records. Interesting. I already had evidence that he was there, so I didn't have to question that, but it's interesting how specific those details are. A lot of the details she's saying I already picked up on precisely, but every now and then she says something about that, specifically about the top secret employment records and budget records, that I'm like, oh, huh. There was even more stuff hidden in there that I didn't really get.
Last was Susan Ford, hired to translate for Guy's overseas trips. It's easy to read into Guy's donation to her school, but there's no definitive proof there. She and Guy were witnessed together near the end of his life. Susan's husband was convinced he couldn't be the father of her daughters. Guy, though, paid double. The price of twins.
That was the biggest smoking gun of them all, honestly.
So, what about 5 Ps? Felix Fellow's mother, Joanna, doesn't have a 5 pieces flavor. On top of that, his story doesn't really add up. His mother already left the company by the time Guy became president, and his lyrics indicate he was born sometime around 1975. Alone, that wouldn't necessarily prove it. But there are some suspicious connections between Felix and the company's current lawyer, Ruby Spratt. They both grew up in Portland, in foster care, and according to the local paper, they definitely knew one another. Ruby was the one who approached the Rootrees to begin with. It was all a setup. Ruby and Felix saw my book's challenge to the Clancet Trust as an opportunity. His mother really had worked for Roottree, and Ruby was a respected lawyer.
Interesting. It wasn't even a coincidence, like, oh, I have an opportunity where I am. She specifically approached with this plan from the get-go.
She exploited my family's greed, worked her way into control of the trust, and ensured Felix got a piece. But they made some mistakes along the way. If you look at the 2 DNA tests that Ruby handled, they were both supposedly tested against Bonnie Hudson. But the 2 signatures that should both represent Bonnie don't match. After Clark and I confronted her, Ruby lawyered up. Ironic, I know.
Bonnie had a signature on there? I remember a signature, but I thought it was the doctor. For me, the weird thing is that fucking one of them's called Jane Doe and the other one's called Bonnie Kellogg, but I guess it was just that one of them was always not there.
We suspect Ruby had Donatico test Felix against his own mother's DNA. He had a hairbrush of hers. They sent the female sample in remotely. On the second test, Bonnie's sample was tested locally, but Courtney May's was not. Ruby's been throwing away samples. We think she sent her own hair instead of Courtney May's, but it could have been anyone's. Ruby and Felix were in cahoots. As for why, they were both advocates of wealth redistribution.
That's a weird thing to fixate on. Ah, those commies, they're always lying to redistribute the wealth. It's like level of redistribution of the wealth being adding 2 more people total to a overall pool of like 30 people that are getting money for this.
A noble effort. But once they controlled the family fortune, they became just as greedy as the worst members of my family. The money corrupted them.
Did they control the family? Oh, I guess because Ruby was in control of the Clanson Trust, right? So she might have been able to change and take the money from them or something?
They were so eager to personally wield the wealth for their own cause that they sabotaged any other claims. That finally brings us to Anonymom, aka Beatrice Watts. Her tales of guys' parties and payoffs were true.
Oh, I don't like it when you don't pronounce the A in Beatrice. Beatrice isn't. Oh, that doesn't feel good.
She even approached Ruby before 5Ps was on news time. Ruby used Beatrice's truths to make Felix's lies feel real, then ruined the DNA test so that Beatrice looked phony in the public court of opinion. I feel worst for her in all of this. While Ruby and Felix stole the show, there were some other potential new family members as well. Miracle Roottree was less of an open and shut case. That said, it's very likely he had a son with Mary Beth Clementine. Not Stuart. Mary Beth adopted him before she ever set foot in Butler County. That leaves Mark. The timeline fits. He showed up about 9 months after Mary Beth visited Miracle, and the basket baby story is a bit too convenient. If that's not enough on its own...
The basket baby narrative is wild because they're like, oh yeah, you're into adoption? I fucking double dog dare you, and they just throw a baby at your door. Huh, raise this your whole life.
He was also bailed out by the sister of Edith Roottree, Miracle Jr.'s wife, after she changed her name to win that silly contest. Our best guess is that Mark was told by his mother whose son he was, and used that fact to put some pressure on Miracle Jr. We have no real proof of that, but nothing else really makes sense for why they'd be connected in that way. Elias's affair was the most ambiguous. Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias to do things he wouldn't have otherwise done, like pressure to include me in the family. My son even mentioned them arguing about someone named Beth. Combined with Gwyneth's lisp, it's possible the name was actually Bess. Unfortunately, all we know about Bess Williams is that she wrote his book and died not long after, leaving her only son an orphan. The timeline fits with Wildcat, but there's no record if she had any other relationship. Honestly, I wouldn't say we had enough evidence either way. I wouldn't be surprised if Elias cheated. Of course, I'm a bit biased. Regardless, we haven't gotten in touch with any of the Williams clan yet. That means we haven't been able to do a DNA test. As Clark mentioned, from here on out, all of our DNA tests will be in person for both parties.
Kind of wild that you ever let them not be.
Lastly, we have a bit of a curveball. Ron Roottree isn't related to us by blood. Gwyn was definitely pregnant, so it's likely Robbie is. When Ron and Robbie went to visit their mother at the end of her life, something changed. Additionally, there have been a few rumors circling around Ron. RR Productions canceled the Guys Like Us remake due to the director's illness.
That's where it was. I read it, but I couldn't find it again to highlight it.
At the same time, Ron's wife Penelope began doing benefits for Huntington's disease, stating that she had become familiar with it. Huntington's is the same disease that Gwyn's former co-star Leslie Florence had. It's passed from parent to child. It can't skip a generation. Because Gwyn and Wild Bill didn't have Huntington's, and Ron seems to, it's impossible Gwyn was his mother. I recently confirmed all this with Ron. At the end of her life, Gwyn told Ron the story. Leslie and Bill had an affair the same year Leslie learned she had Huntington's. Leslie got pregnant. Leslie wasn't likely to survive to see her child grow up. And even if she did, she didn't want to be a burden. She begged Gwyn and Wild Bill to adopt her child. Gwyn did. Mere weeks after she found out she was having her own son, she also took in Ron.
Damn. But also because of the affair, she's like, getting the fuck away from Wild Bill. So she had to carry the son that she was having with Wild Bill while divorcing him, while also taking one of his kids from a separate affair and also raising them as her own. Gwyn seems wild.
Wild Bill was a problem. Unreliable and a serial adulterer. Gwyn divorced him and never saw him again. Gwyn had already told Starlet she was pregnant, so it never really made waves when people saw her with a child in Paris. There was gossip during her divorce when she was discovered to be pregnant again. In actuality, it was the final months of her only pregnancy. To lay low, she stayed in Paris long enough that even her own family never had reason to question the timeline. It's one heck of a story, and frankly, nobody could be expected to piece the timeline together.
Damn, she's a master of this, almost like she grew up in the spotlight.
Not with what few mentions of Gwyn's past have survived. But the Huntingtons itself? That's proof.
Yeah, I have no idea what the other smoking guns were, but the Huntington's disease just made it really obvious. Like, it's so specific.
Ron suing Robbie to remove him from the Clancid Trust was a huge moment in my story, and a major catalyst for this entire investigation. Finding out that it's been pretty much backwards this whole time has been a bit surreal. So that's where we're at. Looking over the information you sent us was invaluable. You got everything absolutely correct. Why did we even bother hiring a team? You figured it all out solo. All this information, this entire story, it's a lot, in more ways than one.
Nope, damn it. Damn, I like accidentally did a weird double click where I both cut off that one and I guess made the voice acting and for this one. We're handling it all very, very carefully, but we couldn't have gotten here without you.
And with that, I guess our tale has finally, truly come to an end. What a strange one it was. No words can express how grateful I am to you for untangling this mess. Honestly, I've had enough of my family's eccentricities and scandals for one lifetime. I imagine you have as well. And if not, well, there's always Elias's and Gwyneth's brothers and sisters.
Attention, Roottrees. This is 5-piece coming at you from the real world. You know, the place you ain't ever lived in.
Damn. Original game by Jeremy Johnston. Yep. Who has a fourth wall break in both parts about fake articles.
From the cash that your ancestors gave you, acting like you somehow deserve it based on your family's creations. Yo, but look at here, sonny, don't you come for our money or you might burn bright in hellfire.
Jordan Peterson ass voice.
And her two dads. My pappy's Clancid Trust should keep you away. Yo, it's disturbing catching a sermon from a geezer who's never known hurt, but blurts out these claims that somehow we're sinners cause we didn't earn it. When all of your worth it came free with your name, you expect me to treat your lectures on greed as some expert creed from he without blame. How about instead I turn my other cheeks and spread them? When you give me a kiss, you'll know just where to aim.
You say money is a root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away.
Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. You silver spoon fiends, you're the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burning spoons for the needle. So once more with passion, tell this poor tragic orphan how your mansions and Porsches are actually horrible. How I'm better off penniless, grasping for morsels. How one in my
my share.
That's actually extortion. With your candy ass name, synonymous with sweets. Oh, you wanna call me classless? I'm gangster from Portland, but I play that game. I came up on the streets. The only streets you reppin' are Park Place and Boardwalk. Hypocrisy, monopoly is toppling. When I knock, have G's.
Top off my pockets, please.
Cause the same God that got to steal my mom from me is what he wants, right? For you to live in poverty. And if you're suddenly not eager to unhand that fortune, that's unfortunate. I guess I'm gonna have to take my portion, and I'll do it all legally. Class action, courtrooms, decorum. I'm way past your fancy ass dormant.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away.
Bring the choir in.
You say money is the root of
Lucas Pope.
problems. Let me
That makes sense. Special thanks to the guy who made The Return of the Obra Dinn.
money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away.
Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. You silver spoon feeds you the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burning spoons for the needle. Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. You silver spoon feeds you the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burning spoons for the needle. Whoever calls dollars the
Ah, the fade out sounds so shit still. I hate it. All characters appearing in this work are fictitious, including Cameron Diaz? You referenced real life people. Anyway, I guess those don't count as characters. It's like saying Twitter, maybe. Anyway, that was Return of the Rootrees are dead. I almost said the Return of the Rootrees are dead. Rootreemania. It was longer and harder than the original one, and I left the videos uncut. I'm curious about the opinions of people that listen to rap music, and that is anyone else detecting the weird dissonance that I am, where every time I hear that song, I'm like, it's so weird. I do not listen to rap music, really. I listened to some Eminem albums when I was a teenager, half my life ago, and that's most of it, which is not much. That's a blind spot. But I'm like, there's individual lines that really have a cool flow to them and sound really good. And then immediately it's shit again. Like right, just back to back, where I'm like, well, no. Because like none of the songs were very good in this game in general. I hope it was worth it. I think I got them all right. Yeah, I think the whole narrative that was played out there all matched up with what my answers were. So at least I get to feel good that my like 6 to 8 hours of extra investment just in the final stretch of the level at least panned out of me doing it right. So that's good. That's stressful having to lock it in without knowing. But yeah, I swear there's like good moments in that song right next to like twice as many really moments where like the rhyme feels weird, the syllables feel weird, the delivery feels weird, but like for just a moment I'm like, oh dang, oh no, it's bad again. Like it really is a weird experience listening to that song. It's more entertaining to listen to because at least it's about the plot of the game in some way, because it's a response to the events, where the other ones were literally just random bits of music that people made decades ago in the setting that had no idea that the game was going to happen. All right. That was the Rootrees and Rootreemania. I'm a little exhausted from the process, but we got through it, and it was a big, cool puzzle to solve, and a very good change of pace from Silksong, which is what I've been playing all month, and I will now have to go back to get back to the grind. But I don't know what order things will come out. I'm sure, well, Silksong's already airing, so I'm sure that'll come out first, but just know in the future, that one breaking point I had where I played the worst part of the game, I hope that's the worst part that breaks me. I think I just announced taking a break. Like I'm gonna go do something else for a while and come back to this hopefully and enjoy Silksong again when I come back. That's when I did this. I went off to do Rootrees finally, which has been on the to-do list for a long time, but also has been a high-ranking thing in various votes on Patreon for a long time. But Patreon keeps picking things that take so long to play, like Silksong and Back to the Dawn and Expedition 33, Clair Obscure. that like I keep being like, I'm gonna cover Roottrees any minute now, and then before I know it, 8 months have passed. I'm like, shit. Now that I've finally covered it, I have the additional layer of being like, now that I have it on the archive, Patreon and YouTube members get it. Just a little plug here, you can join my Patreon or YouTube membership in the $5 tier to watch a lot of videos early without me having to worry about when to schedule them and when to put them out. I just put them up and then they sit there. Maybe they're already airing and you get early access to the rest of the playthrough, or sometimes I don't know when it's going to air, which is where I am with this one now. I'm like, I record this in January 2026, but I don't know if it'll come out in February 2026 or October 2026. That's just a matter of like the endless shuffling goals of what to air next and why, and what I think, like whether or not I think this thing should skip the line or this thing should wait until the end of the current line to air, which is basically the main dilemma. And that's just a moment-to-moment decision-making process I make constantly, and nothing is locked in until it literally is airing. Once it's airing, I'm like, well, that's it. Gotta wait till it finishes until I can make another choice, 99% of the time. But right up until the moment that it airs, I'll oftentimes have a variety of different answers to myself about when it'll air, and still be wrong right up until the last moment. Just things come up and certain games come out, or my impression of what should happen next changes, or even just the overall layout of exactly which game is finishing and what kind of niche that fills, and being like, I shouldn't air that game because then I have two similar games airing. I should air that other game, kind of stuff. Or even mixing up, like thinking I should mix in long games with short games adjacent to each other, so I don't have an entire channel that's just 4 long games that won't go away as they will diminish in views at once. Running a Let's Play channel with slots is stressful in this way, with how long games are and how it can feel like you're almost like being held hostage by a game that no one's watching, but you have committed to airing the rest of, and so on. It's all weird to think about. Anyway, this was a cool puzzle game. My handful of complaints aside, it's just really, it's a good as a puzzle thing in the way it is. It's just funny to me that if you take it as on face value what its premise is, it doesn't make very much sense, which is fine. Puzzle games don't have to inherently make sense. Does aperture science make that much sense in Portal? No, but it's a goofy nonsense puzzle game. It's just the game is so grounded in such concrete and normal circumstances of trying to figure out a family tree to figure out who the heirs legitimately are, which is a real life concept that comes up sometimes, I'm sure. And just like family trees in general, it's like you gotta find historical documentation and DNA tests or just any level of proof to figure out who is related to who. And then you make a family tree in response to that. This game has a lot of things that don't make diegetic sense, because above all, you just preemptively have the entire family tree in advance and you're just putting names in. That's the fact that things get locked in is potentially explained on some level by the fact that the Sam Roottree seems to know all the answers already and is just trying to get you to prove those answers so that she can confirm that she's right before she runs her publishes her book. But one, that doesn't make a lot of sense, just because that still doesn't make a lot of sense because if her job is to make sure have her confirm her work by completely independently, then the fact that she tells us when we're right or wrong and seemingly provides us with a tree in advance doesn't make any sense, because then she's definitely putting her finger on the scale there and damaging the data where I'm supposed to independently recreate it. Because it feels like I'm supposed to be like when somebody does it feels like I'm supposed to be a scientific study where somebody has to do the experiment independently to try to recreate someone else's results and conclusion, and then you're supposed to be free to recreate the variables yourself and not have anyone interfering with the variables. And giving me a family tree that's blank is interfering with the variables, because I'm paint by numbersing. I don't know the numbers, but I know where the shapes are, and something has to go there. And if there's no more spots, then nothing goes there. So that's a huge inconsistency with the premise as far as that goes. And maybe it paints her as being a little more corruptible than implied or something, but I don't think they mean anything narratively by that. I think that's just like the gameplay conceit the game had to have, and we're just not supposed to worry about how it makes no sense that I have a tree that already knows how many kids there are and so on, and how many branches there are, despite not knowing who any of the people in it are at any point. The part where she gives me all the evidence is more reasonable. Basically, she's like, here's a mountain of all the evidence that I looked at. Do you come away with the same conclusion? That would make pretty good sense if I was not given the tree itself. Especially since I also do my own research on the computer and stuff and find even more stuff that she didn't give me. In fact, she didn't give me most of the stuff that I found. So that part largely makes sense. And then, yeah, when we got to this final stage of Rootreemania, they changed the format to the smoking guns format, and that also had its own nonsense where I'm non-diegetically I'm basing my diegetic answers on non-diegetic information, which is the fact that this interface is like, ooh, these are the smoking guns, ooh, Huntington's disease, I wonder why I'm pointing that out. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously it's Huntington's disease, which I shouldn't know, so that's kind of nonsense. But that's it, doesn't matter. None of that's like genuine flaws, it's just gaps between the Ludo and the narrative, I guess. Some kind of dissonance or something between those things. And I find it interesting to point those things out and talk about them because I'm me. And you probably at least tolerate that because you keep coming back to watch more. I'll see you guys next time when I hopefully cover more puzzle and mystery games and keep that running. But for now, I gotta finish Silksong, and that's gonna hurt. It hopefully won't be as bad as the part that pissed me off, but I'm sure it'll hurt because that's what all these dickish post-Dark Souls asshole games are like to me. Great. Bye.